one of the biggest fears high-achieving corporate women carry when something no longer feels aligned is this. If I acknowledge this misalignment, does it mean I have to start over? Start over from scratch, lose momentum, disrupt stability, walk away from everything you have built? And because that fear feels so heavy, many women choose to stay. Not because they are fully aligned, but because starting over feels too expensive. Let's bring clarity to this. Realignment is not the same as starting over. And misunderstanding the difference is what keeps many high-achieving women stuck in roles they have already outgrown. Let's anchor something important first. High-achieving corporate women do not burn out because they are weak. They burn out because they are misaligned. But misalignment does not mean your entire career is wrong. It means something within your current structure no longer fits who you are becoming. And when something no longer fits, the solution is not always abandonment. Sometimes it is adjustment. Sometimes it is recalibration. Sometimes it is redirection. But rarely is it total erasure. Let me explain why this matters. High-achieving women have invested years building their careers. Education, experience, reputation, professional relationships, credibility. These are not things you discard casually. They are assets. And realignment, when done correctly, leverages those assets. It does not ignore them. So the goal is not to start from zero. The goal is to realign from where you are. Now let's break this down. Starting over is reactive. Realignment is strategic. Starting over says, everything is wrong. I need to leave. Realignment says, something is off. Let me understand what. Starting over comes from emotional urgency. Realignment comes from clarity. And clarity protects what you have built. Let's go deeper. Realignment happens at 3 levels. The first level is internal identity. This is where everything begins. Who are you becoming? What values now guide your decisions? What no longer fits? Not externally, but internally. Until this level is clear, every external decision remains uncertain because you are trying to solve an identity question with structural changes. And that rarely works. The second level of realignment is structural. This is where you examine your role, your responsibilities, your environment, your leadership context, and you ask, what exactly is misaligned here? Is it the work itself, the culture, the expectations, the way success is measured, or the way I am currently operating within this role? Because sometimes the role is misaligned, and sometimes your approach to the role needs recalibration, and those are very different solutions. The third level of realignment is directional. This is where you begin asking, given who I am becoming and what I now understand about my environment, what is the most aligned next move? Not the fastest move, not the safest move, the most aligned move. And that move may not be dramatic. Sometimes it is a shift within your current organization. Sometimes it is a transition to a different environment. Sometimes it is a redesign of your responsibilities. But in all cases, it is intentional, not reactive. Now, here is where many women become anxious. They assume realignment must happen quickly. But realignment is a process, not a moment. It requires reflection, clarity, and thoughtful movement. Because the goal is not to escape discomfort. The goal is to build alignment. And alignment takes intention. Let me give you a metaphor. Imagine adjusting the direction of a ship. A small shift in direction applied consistently over time leads to a completely different destination. You do not need to destroy the ship. You adjust the course. That is realignment. It respects the journey you have already taken, while intentionally guiding where you are going next. Now, let's address something important. Many high-achieving women feel guilt when they begin questioning their current roles. They think, I have worked hard to get here. Other people would love this opportunity. I should just be grateful. And gratitude is important. But gratitude does not replace alignment. You can appreciate where you are and still recognize that you have outgrown it. Those two truths can coexist. And acknowledging that is not failure, it is maturity. Professional maturity is not just about achieving, it is about recalibrating when your identity evolves. This is why my work does not start with resumes. It starts with identity. Because until identity becomes clear, every decision feels like risk. But when identity becomes clear, decisions become directional. Through the RTS method, realign, transition, sustain, we move in sequence. First, realign. This phase clarifies identity, diagnoses misalignment, separates emotional discomfort from structural issues. Then, transition. This phase designs a strategic move, one that protects your income, your credibility, your professional narrative, because realignment should strengthen your career, not destabilize it. And finally, sustain. This phase ensures your next chapter remains aligned so that success no longer requires you to suppress parts of yourself. Because success that costs your identity is not sustainable success. Let's bring this together. If you are in a season where something no longer feels right, pause. Not to delay, but to understand. Realignment does not require you to abandon everything you have built. It requires you to understand what needs to be adjusted internally, structurally, directionally, because when those three levels align, your career stops feeling like endurance and starts feeling like expression. Let's recap. Realignment is not starting over. It is recalibrating. It is identifying what no longer fits. It is adjusting your direction intentionally. It is building on what you have, not discarding it. And most importantly, it is aligning your external success with your internal identity. As we move into the next phase of this series, we will begin talking about transition, not emotional exits, strategic movement. Because once clarity is established, movement becomes possible. And when movement is aligned, it becomes transformation. You are not starting over. You are refining your direction. And that changes everything. I will see you on the next one.